In this video, we're going to dissect how students learn math, the cycles they go through when they're learning math. Stay tuned.
It's time for Tip Tuesdays with Dr. Shanna Grant.
Now, of course, there are many different ways that different instructors may go about teaching math, but this one has been a proven strategy that I've done based on research, and that has been working with our students, okay? So the cycle that we use, or you may say the pedagogy that we use for those of us who are teacher savvy, is APOS. And so those are just the acronym or the first letters for each of the stage that the students go through when they're learning math. And so APOS, the first phase is the action stage, okay? Now, in the action stage, students are taken through a series of activities or actions to help them get introduced or engage them in a different things that they can do to learn a specific topic. So for instance, let's say we're teaching addition, right? So the action may be to say, hey, we have 2 apples here plus 2 apples. How many apples do we have all together? And so they'll count all 4 apples. They'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. And so they'll say, oh, I have 4 apples, right? And so you'll do many of these activities, many of these actions, right? So the students get familiar with not the activity, but the concept that you are trying to introduce to them, okay? Now, in this stage, students may even get steps. And so, for instance, you may say the first thing you want to do is you want to count the first set of apples that you have. So here you have 1, 2 apples, right? And then next you want to count the other set, starting with where you left off. So you're at 2, and then now you're going to go 3, 4. Okay. And so altogether you have 4 apples. So those are different steps, right? 3 different steps. First, you count the first set of apples, then you add on by counting the second set, and together you have the total number adding 2 plus 2. And so at the action stage, students are relying on these steps, right, to get the concept or to really know what they're doing. Okay, now the students should, after doing all these different activities, doing all these actions, the student should move on to what we say internalize what the activities are that they've been doing. Okay, and so they should now internalize and get to what we call the process stage. Now, at this stage, they can actually think about what they're doing now, and we have to make sure we be very careful about this phase. It's not necessarily that they're memorizing what they're doing, right? And so it's important to point out that memorizing is for students who are still at the action stage. So you want to be sure that when you're saying, oh, they're transitioning now to the process stage, that they're not just memorizing, right? They're really now internalizing, okay, I was adding 2 plus 2. And so on their own, without coaching from you, maybe they'll get a little coaching, dependent on, what stage they are at. Every child learns different, of course. You will want to kind of probe them if you would like, to say, okay, so how many apples do you have overall here? 2. Okay, so if you want to take them now from the action stage, you may say, okay, so you have 2 apples, and then plus how many more will give you 4, right? So now they're thinking, okay, so when I added 2 here and I added another 2, that's how I got to 4. Or they may just say, oh, I don't have to count all 2 here. I know that I already have 2 here. So 2 plus 3, 4, it's going to give me 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. Right? So an additional 2 is what gives me 4. And so, of course, as instructors, tutors, or parents, what you want to do is to bring them to this stage. Now, you want to just kind of give them different types of questions. So you won't just give them, hey, what is 2 plus 2? Right? And say, hey, add these 2 things together, right? You will now start to give them different questions where they'll start develop that critical thinking and start having to process, right? The P in APOS, they'll now process what it is that they are doing, which is adding, right? And so eventually at this process, they'll realize that if I add 2 plus 2, oh, I'm getting a bigger number. I'm getting 4, right? And so in addition, right? This is now going to take us to what we call the object stage, right? And so in the object stage, it's APOs, right? APO. Now in the object stage, the students are now able to look at addition as a object, if you may, or as a operation of things that you can do to get a bigger number, right? For instance, you'll say, oh, I can add these two things or do two sets of things, 2 plus 2, and I'll get a bigger number, 4. Or this is one way that I can manipulate objects or things, right? And so one thing to note is, remember we noted that at the action stage, they're memorizing, they're doing steps. When they get to the process stage, this is very good for you if you want to identify if your child or if your student is at the process stage. You will have to now see, now, are they relying on steps? Are they relying on memorization? I know some students, they are stuck at the action stage, and this means they have not really grasped the concept that they're learning, right? And so it's important that we try to probe them, ask different, and we will say non-traditional questions. If you think about it, you'll have like worksheets where you have blank plus blank equals 10, right? Or you have 5 plus blank equals 10. You're still doing addition, you're still doing that operation, but now they have to really think, internalize, okay, how can I arrive at 10? What can I do? Or what plus 5 is giving me 10, right? And so this is very important. All of our workbooks are designed this way to get students to the process stage, because we want to make sure that they get to that level. It's also important to note that at the process stage, once the student passes the action stage and gets to the process stage, you can safely say that they have actually mastered the content in a way, right? You'll say, okay, they will say, let's say you can say a B student in that content level, or that content that we're covering at that point in time. Now, if the student is able to get to the object stage where they're now looking at addition as an operation that you can use to manipulate objects or that you can apply to get a bigger number, then now we're seeing that, oh, they are actually at the object stage. And then here we can say that they have truly mastered the subject or the content. Okay. Now the last stage is what we call the schema, APOS. The schema is really all the things that the student associates with addition. And so you want to make sure to check their schema to make sure that they don't have any misconception or anything of that nature. And so what this means is whatever terms, if you say, when you think about addition, what do you think about? Right? If we're saying we're going to add some things, what do you think about? They should say, oh, we're talking about increasing. We're talking about more, right? We're talking about something that gives us more value, right? And those type of things, whatever their schema is, it's really up to them based on what they've learned through this cycle. But it's important that we keep these things in mind so that students are not stuck at the action phase, right? Because a lot of times we see instructors or tutors, teachers, they are teaching what we call instrumental, and that's for another day. But instrumental learning, meaning that they are only teaching with steps. And I don't know about you, but me as a kid, that would kill me. Oh my goodness. I'm a type of student. I had to learn relational, meaning I had to be able to understand what we're doing, why we're doing, how it makes sense, or else I would not remember. Okay. I have a story for this, but I'll do that in another video. But yes, so if you are able to take your child, whether you're a parent, a student, or a teacher, if you're able to take your child through these 4 steps, right, or the 4 stages, mostly they can at least get to the process stage. We know that they have some type of understanding, some type of mastery of the content. Then we know, okay, we can move on to the next level in this. But if they're stuck at the action phase or the action stage rather, then this means that, well, we have work to do.